you were in Ireland, which is, pretty close to the UK, so you were much closer to the imperial model than I was. But from all the way over here, it wasn't making a lot of sense from the beginning. And now we know, I mean, we have coders and people that are looking at this model saying it is one of the worst pieces of, stinking disaster there ever was, and the whole world followed it. Could you tell right away? I mean, was it hard to understand? Should scientists have been as hoodwinked by the imperial model as they were? When did you start recognizing something stinks here?
So I would say I was in touch with some doctors that were trying to impress the importance of hydroxychloroquine in February of 2020, who were already concerned at that stage. So what I would say is that there is absolutely no need to be looking at models in these cases, because we have such information and actual data around the world for when the viruses actually circulate the globe and where they are in different countries. And also, since the first COVID-1 in 2003, there's thousands of publications for how that circulated the globe and that people actually clear the antibody after that. And there were 2 more circulations. So what I'm saying, which is well recognized in this virus, that once you have recovered from this virus, you are immune for life. And by the way,
you, Dolores, you've recovered yourself. Am I correct in that you got COVID-19? How was it? Was it like Cuomo, where you were like hallucinating and talking to your dead father, as he described it? I don't know if you saw that, but our CNN anchor here was saying it was awful.
Yeah, so I would have had pneumonia, was like, twice in my life, 20 years ago. So it was nothing like that. So I had flu. My husband actually flew to America in December and January, and he came back with it, and then I got it. And I had flu-like symptoms for about 2 weeks. And then I started to get this maybe a week, and then a dry cough that went on for about 2 weeks. And towards the end, I was breathless. So I was worried a little bit for a few days, and then it went away. And I, of course, did not know what it was, but that was January and February. So that I then found out, because of the dry cough, that was the symptoms. But if we had known, which we could have, because it was in China, the way to boost the immune system for everybody is to have good nutrition, reduce stress, and take vitamins D and vitamin C and zinc. And then most people, the vast majority, 99 out of 100, will have no symptoms at all. And what the media should have been doing worldwide before the virus came is to publicize the symptoms, right? First of all, publicize the prevention with vitamin D, C, and zinc, and then the symptoms, so that people could have taken those in January and February. And then, if they could have said the symptoms, and then if they said, if you have a cough, you can take hydroxychloroquine, AZT, and zinc. And because it was known in China very early in January and February that 50% of people in the world that were dying were over 80. Hydroxychloroquine has a half-life of 21 days, and you could have given the cystic fibrosis or underlying condition a preventative tablet of hydroxychloroquine every 2 weeks, and then even then they would not have, and zinc, of course, and they would not have any symptoms. So we do not need anyone to die for this. So if you just put up the table again between Corona and Ebola, what I just wanted to do is to say, because I worked in one of these biosafety labs and I ran one, that Ebola is considered class 4, biosafety class 4. And the reason for that is that there is no treatment. We still don't have a vaccine. So Ebola was discovered first in 1976. And there is not a vaccine. And of course, it's not that they haven't worked on a vaccine, they just haven't a vaccine that's safe. So the reason why I think that this SARS-CoV-2 should now be down to safety class 1, which means you don't require any social distancing, is because we now know we have a preventative strategy and we have a treatment. So the difference between something...
We're getting a different story here, Dolores. I know you're singing the praises of hydroxychloroquine. We have seen the studies all over, China, and they've been done in Italy. Of course, the great work by Dr. Didier Raoult. But here in America, we've got Tony Fauci saying, it really doesn't look very promising. And we have governors that are saying, I am going to restrict the use of hydroxychloroquine and, for only emergency use, like right at the point where someone might be going on a respirator. What do you have to say about that policy that is, at least through most of America? And when we're hearing Matthew McConaughey saying this shouldn't be political, I feel like hydroxychloroquine got really political here in America. As soon as Trump said this looks really promising, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, all of these networks that seem to have a liberal bend just came out against it. You really believe this strongly that hydroxychloroquine could be considered treatment to the point where we drop it from a level 4 virus, which means no treatment, very deadly, down to a level 1? Can you explain that? What are we doing here in America?
So what I think, there has been now, first of all, people should be aware that hydroxychloroquine has been used in malaria for over 60 years. And it's been used as treatment for arthritis and lupus for 20 years, and also for people with HIV. So that's just an example of how hydroxychloroquine can be very safe and it's well used. So what I would put a different slant on it, I would say to people, like I have a mum who's 94 years old, and if people are elderly themselves, that there is a treatment. So essentially the governments and the media are not informing people that there is a way for them to prevent getting flu-like symptoms. But also there is a legal and ethical and moral responsibility. If I was 80 and I was listening to me and saying, well, there is an option that I just have to take a very safe treatment, that can go re-engage in the world, and I don't have to worry about getting these flu symptoms, that I am saying that we have to hold individual people like our Taoiseach. I am holding Leo Varadkar to account, and our ministers for health. And they have to push forward on the main news stations who is the scientist that's making those decisions. And when I ran the biosafety lab in Berlin, if anybody died because in my lab, I would be responsible, and even if I did not make a mistake. And the fine was around €250,000 at the time, and that was, 15 years ago. So that's an example of how scientists can be held to account. So I think what it is that people whose parents die, in June, or if, family members, that really those deaths are unnecessary. So the media is not saying there's prevention. They're not saying that there's a treatment. So therefore, and I do fear as well, that they are almost hoping that there will be a spike in the second wave. And that spike in deaths could actually be patients who have undiagnosed cancers or an increase in cardiovascular disease. So what we have to say is the policy is entirely wrong, and I am happy to debate in America or Ireland or anywhere with people. There is no need for social distancing. There is no need for masks. Once people know nutrition, vitamins, and hydroxychloroquine can prevent it and treatment, that actually the whole world should be opening up on the 25th of May, 2020. And also, we should never do this again, because once you clear the virus, you will be immune for life. So there is no need. It would be better to open up now as well, because the virus is circulating in the wintertime. And there is no need to have a second wave. And I would say that we need to end the lockdown and then never again, right? It was an entirely mistake, and it should never be done. And I think individual scientists should come out and publish the papers at a US presidential thing, the basis for all this. So there was no need for the models, right? We have enough data. There's no need for masks, distancing. We have to stop it right now.
It seems to me, Dolores, there are so many scientists across the world that are saying the exact same thing. When I hear people like Matthew McConaughey, I'm beating on him a little bit. He doesn't know better. He's an actor. He's not a scientist. But when he says, we have a common enemy, we're in a war against the virus, it seems to me the war that's going on in this world right now is against herd immunity. It's really a war against nature and how we've survived since the dawn of man. We have this beautiful pattern, which is so beautifully shown in the graphs you're showing.
Absolutely.
You see the flu in 2017 last the same amount of time. We see, we even know that MERS and SARS had the same cycle. This idea, you're hearing that the COVID-19 could be here forever, for 30 years. That defies all the science we know about every other coronavirus before it. It's as though they keep moving the goalposts. It's just like whatever anecdotal thought they can come up with to scare us some more. This is going to be the first coronavirus that, lasts a lifetime. Or this is the first coronavirus where maybe you don't get immunity after you've had it. We're going to have the first virus ever that acts totally differently than any other virus we've seen through the history of mankind. If you like that clip, then be sure to check out our live broadcast of The High Wire every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can watch it on Facebook, YouTube, iTunes, and Twitter. We'll see you there.